Greetings, everyone. It's Mike Yao with Savage Kingdoms role-playing game and Fire in the Head Productions. So, just wanted to make a video. I haven't done one in a while. I don't do these often. My channel is pretty small, about maybe 20 people follow it. But I am trying to grow it. My main interests are acting and game design, as you may or may not know. This video in particular is about game design because we have some big news to share. Savage Kingdoms, there will be a third edition. So Savage Kingdoms 3 is going to be a thing. In fact, I'm already working on the third edition rules. That's just kind of what we're calling it right now. I'm not especially sure what the title may be. It may not be fancy at all. Maybe just be Savage Kingdoms 3. SK3 is kind of what I'm calling it with Roman numerals. So I'm working on the core rulebook right now. I'm about 60% through, which is awesome. Really very little, if any, of the lore and setting stuff is changing, so that you could just use the current stuff from Reforged and even the original book. The original edition came out in 2014, like I said, and Reforged came out about not quite a year and a half ago, so it's still pretty young. However, it's only really a 1.5 edition. It would be akin to D&D 3.0 and the 3.5 books came out. They were just kind of added a few more little things, tightened, clarified a few things, and just kind of repackaged everything. The purpose for Reforged was that also, but mostly the packaging. It combined the original core rulebook and the Savage Eastern campaign supplement, the eastern and southern part of the known world. The Reforged core rulebook just put those two together just to have them under one handy tome. Because I had several people ask about that. However, it has also caused a couple of people to point out, and they're not wrong at all, is that the core rulebook now is very hefty and thick. And while that can be a good thing for some people, others are it's a little too hefty, and I kind of agree actually. And also with the perfect binding, when the book first came out from Drive Through RPG, Lightning Source Printing, it was really 500 pages is almost literally the maximum that you can keep a perfect bound hardback together without it falling apart. So the first couple of releases of the core rulebook of Savage Kingdoms Reforged had those problems where the cover's coming off. They've since fixed that. It still can happen. I think it's happened to a couple people, a couple Kickstarters have pointed out to me, backers. But it doesn't seem to be nearly as it was. In fact, I had ordered a new one a couple of months ago. I usually just have an extra copy or two laying around for me as a game master, just in case somebody wants to look at it or even buy it. And my recent new one is completely fine, and I've used it pretty often. But my original one, which I have right next to me, I mean, the cover is completely off. In fact, I'm using it as kind of my markup or my mock-up as I go along and design SK3. So I just want to let you know, guys, let you know where we're at with this. So again, to recap, Savage Kingdom 3 is going to be a thing. We plan on kickstarting it next year in 2020 in May. And then therefore the books theoretically would be done and out to people in June or July. Hopefully they would be on some game shop and book store shelves in August or September. So it'll be a grand old time. So 2020 is a cool, I don't know, I just like the fact that 2020 is very auspicious, numerically speaking, and I think it's a good time for a third edition, especially for a small game. So some things are, so I guess the next logical question to ask would be, why a third edition, Mr. Yao? Well, to that end, I think it's time to move on to some clarifications. Now, I was actually working on a science fiction game. That was going to be the next project, Savage Stars. Savage Stars was the working title. I don't think I was going to end up with that, but and I've come along pretty well with that. But there's now been a slew of sci-fi games that have come out recently, so it's gotten me rethinking. Also, fantasy, medieval fantasy, particularly early medieval Dark Ages fantasy, which is Savage Kingdoms, is really my passion. I really know I've got a lot of knowledge of medieval weapons and medieval warfare and armor and cultural things and lots of little tweaks about various, particularly Western European cultures, but even beyond that, Eastern, Southern European. And so, anyway, long story short, my passion is really with medieval fantasy. So I got to thinking that maybe this is time. We'll just put the sci-fi game to the side. Maybe I'll release it later, maybe not, and refocus on Savage Kingdoms and see if we can produce, like, step it up one more step or even two, and produce like a really big, awesome awesome product with new artists. That's one of the design goals, is hiring more artists, getting more artwork in the books. Reforged did a good job of bringing more artwork in, but we still need more. I know most people are about content, which I am as well, with their gaming manuals, but most people will also agree that artwork does sell the book, and also it does support your vision of the world. I mean, you can be descriptive as an author and even as a game designer in your books, but you have to limit some of that because the book is also a source book that you're using at the table. Just give me the stuff, give me the stats. So you have to be careful about it. So one way to shortcut that, obviously, is artwork, is the medium of visual. So we'll be looking for new artists who are really good, up and coming, because I am almost certain we won't be able to afford any big names. But some people, maybe younger artists that are kind of that are hungry and trying to get known and out there, and feel really passionate about the project and about the setting. And hopefully the couple artists that we have currently been using will remain on board as well. So it'd be nice to have a team of 6 to 8 artists that we can get a really cool visual feel, evocative feel of the setting out there to everyone, the Savage Kingdom's known world, as I call it. So yeah, another design goal that we're looking at is easier math. So we're not easier. The math's pretty easy, but the numbers can get a little high. So it's what I call head math. It's juggling. It's almost always addition. Occasionally there's some subtraction, but there's no algebra or anything fancy involved. As you know, it's a single die system. Third edition will remain single die system. I thoroughly believe in those, and I'm not knocking multiple dice systems, but I feel like multiple dice systems, though some of them, in fact, a lot of them are really, really fun and cool in and of themselves, almost like a game in and of themselves. But sometimes because of that, they slow down the narrative of the actual game that you're playing, the stories that everyone is trying to tell. So to that end, we will remain single die system. It's still the same general mechanics. It's just some of the math will be a little different. There's a few little tweaks as well to warrant it being an actual third edition, in addition to the new artwork. So yeah, the numbers will be a little bit lower, and there's several design methods that I've taken to ensure that, and I'm really excited about. Like I said, I'm already 60%, maybe even 65% with the core rulebook written. There'll be a playtest document released fairly soon, probably in the next month to 6 weeks, hopefully by the end of May in that case. And I'll release those internally to a small circle of playtesting friends that are still players, and a couple of campaigns I run on Roll20 and also live, and maybe some peripheral people as well. But I'll keep that pretty tight because, I don't want it to be sent out and just spread out and people get a hold of it before it's even a thing. It'll be a very permeable, pliable document. So it's a playtest document. Oh, that didn't work in the session, and I go in and just and change it. So it'll be very much a working document. Without the lore stuff, for the most part, in it. The gazetteer sections and all the lore stuff, which people love. That's been like one of the biggest hits with Savage Kingdoms, and I thank everyone for supporting that. That'll be left out in the playtest content because the lore is still the same from the original books. A couple of little things have changed in the world because of what player characters have done. But for the 99% of it, the lore is precisely the same. So then the next step after that will be playtesting it publicly. I run a couple of RPG camps that sold out last year. They've been pretty popular. I've got 2 weeks of those, 2 different sessions planned this year, possibly a third week with another company. And so the kids play Dungeons and Dragons. We do improv games. We did a little bit of Star Wars. We do miniatures paintings, a whole week of stuff. We even played some Savage Kingdoms last year. They actually really liked it more than I thought. A couple of kids didn't want to go back to D&D. They wanted to keep playing SK, which is excellent. So they will get to play test the game. That's one of the curriculum, I guess, things that we have planned for them. So they will be able to get their names in the credits of the playtesting section for Savage Kingdoms. I think that might be pretty exciting for them. It's ages 10 to 17, and they often have some very good feedback and criticisms, constructive most of it. But even the stuff that may not be like particularly constructive is quite humorous, and sometimes it contains little gems of things, of truths that you can use. So yeah, so that's the next step of playtesting. It was with those awesome kids, and then I'll be at Dragon Con in end of August, early September, Labor Day weekend. I've been there before playtesting Dragon Savage Kingdoms, and for a lot of other reasons. I was at the very first Dragon Con in like '87, and I've only missed 5 or 6 years during the whole run so far. So I'll be back there with my wife. She's not really into the gaming stuff, so she'll be doing her stuff, panels and stuff, and I will be running some Savage Kingdoms in the gaming hall. So sign up for that to get a first look at it. And then here in Asheville, North Carolina, here in the mountains, there's a couple other smaller events that I'll probably be at, depending on acting gigs and all this other stuff that I try to juggle. And then by, say, January or February of next year, we will start kind of pre-marketing or doing the hype campaign for the Kickstarter. And then the Kickstarter will launch in May, and then Savage Kingdoms 3, hopefully, if we make our goal, fingers crossed, will be a thing, and it'll be amazing and awesome. So anyway, thank you guys for putting up with this somewhat long video, but 11 and a half minutes so far. But I think it's good stuff. So Savage Kingdoms 3 going to be a thing. Keep supporting the channel. Tell people about Savage Kingdoms role-playing game and Fire in the Head Productions. And you guys are awesome, and I will talk to you again soon.